My bun is crooked.
Uh-oh. All right. Thank you for pressing play on another episode of the Pay Me No Mind Sports and Entertainment Show. You know I'm the host, Wood. Today's got a very special guest on, and I just wanted to do something different. I told you I was trying to go in a different direction in 2021, and let me start this podcast. I'm sorry. I'm also so I knew I was gonna mess that up. I am trying to do at the same time, I'm trying to do an episode of my over here on YouTube, and then I also wanted to put this up on my on my podcast. It's Always Personal, which is up on Google, Apple Podcast, as well as Spotify. So I have that recording, and now I just want to get to my guests. I want to welcome to the show Madelyne Woods.
I love it. Hey, Ray.
Thank you. So I appreciate your time today. Like I said, I just wanted to be able to get into different discussions this year and tell different stories and live out my dreams. So I'm honored that you took out some time to join me, and hopefully we get into something entertaining.
Okay. Well, I love it. Thank you for having me. And let me just say that I enjoy you on Instagram. That's how we met.
Mhm.
Following each other on Instagram. I love the posts that you put up. I like how you think. I like what you talk about. So I'm happy to be here.
Well, I appreciate that. I actually haven't been on there in like the last 2 or 3 months.
Right. I noticed.
Some stuff pissed me off. What's going on in the world right now, and we'll get into some of that. So I won't get ahead of that.
Okay.
But what I did want to know, one question for starters was, what's your thoughts on podcasters and amateurs like me, and kind of what's been going on maybe the last 4 to 5 years with, like I said, guys like me coming into the space and kind of how it's impacted, radio and media in general.
Well, first of all, I'm so jealous of all of you because you have been early adapters and jumped right into the technology and been able to produce content. And that's where our world really lives right now, being able to jump on your phone or your laptop or your tablet and be able to watch content, not just have to depend on the radio or television. So it's definitely had a major impact on traditional media. I love it because it's unfiltered. It's more authentic. You don't have all the beauty shots with it. It's just real. It's real. What you see is what you get, because so many amateurs, to use your word, are doing it now. And the reality is, we're not doing brain surgery here. I've been in this business maybe 30 something years now. And so just watching how it's evolved, I'm excited by it. I'm just praying for the day where I have enough disposable time where I can jump in and really, grow a platform for myself. I'm tired of working for folks,
And that was kind of the genesis of me and you talking, offline and whatnot. Was like, I was encouraging you to take advantage of that because you have you obviously have a name. I'm assuming you have a network and can get guests that I can't get to. So that's great. That's great. And I look forward to you eventually, migrating over to the space.
Yeah, I'm coming.
So for me, today is a pretty big day in terms of, you joining me as a guest and whatnot. What was your first big interview once you started out onto this?
My very first big interview, I think when I was an intern for the CBS affiliate here in DC, my very first interview was with Martha Stewart. And this is when she was first coming into her own as a lifestyle guru. And she was in town. She had just published her, I think it was either her first or second book. And it was a beautiful book about her recipes and, all the crafts and things that she does. And I went down and interviewed her, and she was really snotty and snappy to the crew. Now I'm an intern. She's really snotty and snappy to them. But when she sat in that chair with me, it was all grace. It was all kindness. We had a fun time together. I wish I had that video, because when you're into this and you're doing it, you don't think to actually collect things and store them away for the future so you can really refer back to it and be like, wow, I did that. And so, yeah, that was my very first and big interview I ever did. And I would love to talk to her today. In fact, when I do get started, I'm going to go back and revisit that with her and so many other people. After I did Martha, this was with the CBS affiliate here in DC. I was an intern. They sent me out to interview Run DMC because they were in town for a big concert. Okay. And so I got a chance to sit down with them and talk to them. And, when you're sitting there and you're a fan, that's when I learned how to have some presence and some composure, because I didn't want to walk in being like this fangirl, even though I was going to be at the concert that night. I didn't even tell them that. I walked in because I always believed that you have to, and this is such a cliche, you got to fake it until you make it. Yeah. And so I walked in looking like I was a reporter. I had the crew with me. I had my questions prepared, and we just had a running conversation. And it was great. It was just wonderful. And I learned that day that it's not so much about getting caught up in your head about reporting as much as it is about having a conversation. And I think as my career went on, that was the one thing that separated me from a lot of folks that started out when I did, and even some of my colleagues. I just sat down and talked to people. I didn't try to do a checklist of I got to talk about this, I got to cover this. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think it makes a difference.
That's kind of how I do my thing. I'm just teaching myself what I'm doing. And like you said, finding my voice. Mm-hmm. And I've always just approached it like I want to ask different subjects what I always wanted to know when I was listening, watching you do your thing and, right. and many of your peers.
Yeah.
Nobody was asking the question that I wanted to be asked. So right. That's kind of my North Star, if you will. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what's your thoughts about when the streets, quote unquote, became your peers or your competition, or became media? You have Noriega over with his Drink Champ podcast. You have the trio that is the Breakfast Club. Yeah. All of these other,
they're doing it.
They're endless. But what did you think when they started coming into the role that you filled?
I thought it was wonderful. I mean, it's space for everybody. The internet is endless. You know what I mean? And I've never been the type of person that thought this is just for me, or, I'm the star and I got to do this. I always thought it was room for everybody. And I still believe that. And I just sit and admire, because I watch everything and everybody and I study them, because when I do come back and I get my own platform, I want to know what's going to work. I want it to work for me. I'm going to be myself, but I need to understand how this whole thing comes together. But I love them all. I may not agree with everything that they say or do or cover, and sometimes I'm sitting there looking at my laptop, cursing and disagreeing and, be like, this is crazy, But yeah, again, I think it's space for all of us. I think each one of us has something to say. And it's a blessing that we have this medium now where we can talk about it, Right. I think it's important.
So you come from, your you get your education together in this, and you do your internships.
2 degrees.
2 degrees, and then you do your internship.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you get some mentorship from Donnie Simpson.
All of them.
And
all of them. JC Hayward here in DC. She gave me my voice. When I first started, she told me that I talked too high. I sounded like a girl. And I was like, well, I am a girl. But she was like, no, you have to have some authority. You have to have some timbre and some texture in your voice. And so I went home and practiced and made my voice mature, because that's really what she was trying to tell me. I sounded too young.
Right.
And so it was a little offensive at first. My dad didn't like it. When I came home and told daddy what she said, he was like, well, I ain't gonna tell you what he said, but that's my daddy. So of course he had a reaction. But it was good advice. Going back to what you just asked me, it's amazing to me because you're right. I got 2 degrees. I did the internships, and y'all just showing up with your phones and just bam, just doing it. But again, it's the evolution of the world. The best thing that happens in life is that things get simplified. And that's what's happened. Whereas when I first started in this business, I was a one-man band. I had a camera. I used to lug around about 60 pounds of equipment every day. I had the camera. I had this big tripod. I had a sound deck. So that's 3 big pieces of equipment. Then I had to go back to the van and get a light or get a light out of the truck. Right. So I'm schlepping all this stuff around, and y'all just showing up like this, push and play.
Yes.
I love it. I think it's the coolest thing. I love technology, and I think we're moving in the right direction. And again, you can't have too many voices. Everybody got something to say.
Now, with that though, do you think a level below the breakfast clubs and the sway in the mornings and everything, there are a lot of, thousands of guys like myself. One thing that became a bit problematic for me a couple of months ago was especially getting into when COVID first started coming out. You have a lot of individuals online running in conspiracies and what I thought, what I feel. It's a lot of stuff being put out there, and rarely does anybody back any of it up with anything substantive. So does that part of it get a little reckless for you, that it's all of that is unfiltered?
I think that it's judgment. And I don't think anyone should ever sit in front of a screen or listen to, some audio and not question it. I think no matter what you hear or see, even on television, because there's a lot of misinformation there too, on these newscasts with these reputable journalists. There's a lot of misinformation out there. And the one thing that I think we all have to do as just humans is develop some judgment and do your own legwork. Every time I hear something, the first thing I do is I go look it up and verify it or disqualify it. And that's how you have to be. Otherwise, you're a sheep just getting pulled into whatever direction the loudest person is pulling you into, because there's a lot of noise and clutter out there. To your point, there's a lot of noise. But it's
not going away.
It's just the way. Yeah, it's not going away. This is what it is. So you got to be discerning and decide who you're going to trust, who you're going to listen to, and what you're going to follow. And that's why it's so important, Rich. Let me say this. That's why it's so important to have some integrity in this business, and that's why it's so important that you have these independent platforms, because in traditional old school media, when we were coming up, there were so many things that happened, and you've heard the stories and everything, where your integrity could easily become compromised. And if you didn't play that game, you didn't stay on long. And I'm going to leave that there for you to ask me a follow-up question.
Wow. I might come back to that. The one thing that, like I said, with getting into the COVID stuff, a guy was online. I commented on something and somebody replied to me and was like, brother, you just, you relying on that old media. You don't realize it's thousands of us across the country with our phones and with our, digital voice recorders and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And we're doing all the work and telling the real story. And I'm just like, but I'm sorry, bro, but like one person can't really cover everything. You're telling me that nothing is really going on at the hospital or this and that. But I'm like, but you don't know how to go and request for public records or whatever that stuff is. Right. Like, it's a lot of loops that have to get closed.
True.
And I'm sorry. I'm like, I can tell by the limit, how limited what you're saying is. I can tell you it's a lot of other parts to the story that you're just not tapping into. So I can't really take your word at face value.
Right. Yeah. And I appreciate that. There are some disconnects. And then that's where my degrees set me apart from folks just, running with this, because I know to go and pull medical records, or I know to go and do a Lexis search to look up the research to back up whatever comes out of my mouth. And a lot of people aren't doing this. We have a whole bunch of woke people out here, and that's not, a diss to anybody. We have a lot of woke people out here who have done some reading, and they are learned people, but they haven't done the extensive learning. So they take the piece of information that's new to them, and they think it's new to everybody else, you know? And they're running their mouths about it. And it's like, boo, yeah, that this piece of what you're saying is true, but you've taken it out of context. And so you need to put this back in context and back it up with the research so that you can tell the entire story. Because I agree with you, there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation, and just lies out there right now.
Right. And that's, I'm just like, instead of clashing with old media, as it's been coined, and just totally rejecting all of that, I think it's still important to tune in and pick up on some pointers and some cues. I mean, if you're going to do this, you can't always respect your craft and work at your craft and improve what you're doing. And like you said, you got to have some integrity, because it's people. I know I just did an episode last week talking about that Ashley Babbitt lady who just lost her life at the Capitol. She sat out here and got radicalized by a lot of stuff and lost her life that day.
But you know what? She went there to die.
Yeah, I guess
she went there to die.
That's pretty much. You are right on that.
You got some people out here who really, and you see it in other countries too. They believe that they're martyrs. They believe that they have some religious calling or some political calling. And she came to DC to die. And she did.
In so many words, yes. If you look at some of her tweets and all of that type of stuff,
she specifically said out of her mouth that if she died when she got here, she was okay with that. And I'm paraphrasing, but if you go back and look through all of her tweets, she was prepared to die for this cause of supporting the ex-president. I ain't that loyal.
Nah, me neither. Me neither. Like when he said he was going to be right beside us, he would have needed to be right beside me.
You're right.
Let's back up.
Unfortunate, but
right. And that was just an example, and maybe one of the more extreme examples. But I do just think all I can really do is watch what I do and say, and that's just how I approach my stuff. If I don't know what I'm talking about, I'm gonna steer clear from it. But that's just me. But let's get into it, because one thing that I wanted to talk about was going back to BET and how you got there, and those 2 degrees, starting out at the University of Maryland at College Park, and then also a master's in mass communications at Howard.
Yep.
I just wonder, how that experience set you up to go for what you would be doing, in the 90s and breaking through at BET.
Well, I think that it made me a solid journalist. It really did. Back in the day, and I don't know where it's ranked right now, but the University of Maryland's journalism program was like in the top 3, top 5 back in the 80s when I came out of school. So we got a good, solid education. We had people like Connie Chung, who came out of the University of Maryland. We had, and I can't think of everybody right now, but it was a good hands-on real world education. I interned with the CBS affiliate, the Fox affiliate, the NBC affiliate while I was in school. I graduated in 3 years from the University of Maryland. And the way I did that, it wasn't that I was brilliant or anything like that. I was very driven. I went to college half-time when I was in high school. So I would do my high school classes in the morning and the afternoon. I went to the community college and racked up enough credits to skip a year once I got to Maryland. Well, when I did that, I graduated from college when I was 19 years old and nobody would touch me. I was too young. And so I was doing my internships and everything. And I said, you know what? My parents didn't want me to leave the area to go to a smaller market to start, because that's what you got to do in this business. That's what you used to have to do. You had to go to this, small town and cut your teeth and, learn the whole process and learn the business. And they weren't ready for me to do that yet. So I said, cool, I'm gonna go back to school. I picked Howard, number one, because it was an HBCU. And the whole time I was at Maryland, I partied at Howard because it was Black. Maryland is so white, and we had such a small population of Black people at Maryland, and we all knew each other. We loved each other, but it was nothing like going across the street or down the street to Howard and partying with everybody over there and getting that whole Black experience. So I went there for grad school, and I still missed out because it's not like an undergrad. It's not like the 4 years you get to do undergrad at the HBCU. But in that 1 year that I was there, I went there specifically because Howard had a radio station and it had a television station. And I said, when I leave Howard, I'm going to have a tape that will put me on the air. And that's what I did. I went over there, I did my coursework. I interned at the television station there. I didn't get to the radio HUR when I was at Howard because my focus was really TV. I wanted to do TV. I wanted to be a White House correspondent. That was my initial dream about becoming a journalist. I wanted to stand outside of the White House every morning and report back to Brian Gumbel on the Today Show. That's what I wanted to do. It didn't work out like that. But what I did get was a skill set that I could take anywhere in the world. And I think it also helped me become an early adapter to tech because, again, when I was at Howard, I learned how to do, the CG, the graphics. I learned how to run the studio camera. I learned how to mic somebody. I learned how to write. I learned how to have presence on camera because I became the host of a show that's still in the air there. It's called Spotlight. It's a student-run news magazine production that I was selected to host my second semester when I was at Howard. And so being in front of the camera, behind the camera, is the best preparation I ever could have gotten. And that's why I did it. 19 years old, I had interned at all these places, and they were like, "We putting you on the air?" So I said, all right. So when I left Howard, with my degree, I was dating a guy who had gone to South Carolina to start working. And so I was like, I'm gonna go to South Carolina too, so I could be near him. And so I started off in Beaufort, South Carolina. Whew. I mean, that's a small town. But I think, again, it was good for me because it was so small that the crime rate really wasn't, that bad. It's probably the only reason why my parents let me go.
Okay.
Because at 19 years old, again, at that point, I was just 20 years old. I finished Howard in a year. 20 years old now, I'm leaving home. And at this point, my dad was out of arguments. And I was like, listen, I'm doing this. And so they packed me up. They threw a U-Haul on the back of my car and we went to Beaufort, set me up in my apartment and everything. And I worked there for a year. Same kind of setup, one-man band again.
Okay.
So I got a tripod, I got a deck, and I got a camera with me and the lights. And Beaufort, if you know the climate there, it's like 80, 90 degrees on a cool day, and it's humid because it's right on the ocean. So my makeup is, running down my face. I got a big afro because, the humidity is sweating out my hair. But again, being an anchor, a reporter, and a one-man band prepared me to the point where, I knew what I was doing from both sides of the camera. I knew how to develop a story because you didn't have a producer. You had to do it all. You had to produce, direct, anchor, host, whatever. It was all on you. So I knew this business. And, I went from there to Charleston for about a year. I was in the South in a very racist kind of situation and was like, you know what? I don't like this. I don't like how they're treating me because I can shoot. They were making me shoot, whereas the other white reporters got a crew. And I was like, fuck this, So what really made me leave was that I was there the year that Hurricane Hugo hit. And, being from DC, I didn't know anything about hurricanes. And it was really scary what they were talking to. And then watching the devastation after the fact, that was a deadly situation. I'm sure you may not remember, but Hugo killed, hundreds of people. And it really messed up the town of Charleston. So, I'm in this situation where my news director and I aren't getting along. I'm watching the other white reporters be promoted over me and get the good assignments, and I'm getting the grunt work, and I got to shoot for myself. And so I made up my mind when Hugo was coming. I said, I ain't come here to die. At this point, all my journalistic integrity and all that was out the window because I did not go to Charleston to die.
Right.
They really weren't setting up accommodations to protect us. We were on our own, but they wanted us to shoot and be live throughout, wall-to-wall coverage. And so it's so funny because my dad was very direct and very like, listen, you belong to me. So you bring your ass home. It was so funny because he called me because, everybody in the country knew this hurricane was coming and how devastating it was going to be. So he called me and he said, "Hey, you coming home?" I said, "Daddy, I'm at the airport. I got the last flight out of there." I told the news director I was leaving, and she told me that if I left, I wouldn't have a job. I said, "All right." I got the last flight out of Charleston, South Carolina that day and made it home. It took me 18 hours to get home because the weather was coming in. We got redirected so many times. I ended up, after circling and circling and hearing them talk about we're running out of fuel, we finally landed in Baltimore. They bussed us back to National so I could get home to DC. It was horrendous. But anyway, that weekend, I made up my mind I wasn't going back. If I had to go back, I was going back to look for a job. And so I can't remember exactly when it hit, but subsequently after that, I was watching BET, and I just told Lisa this story because when I got back to Charleston after this, I was watching BET, and all of us were so in love with BET because it was brand new, it was Black, it was us, it was beautiful. Back in the 90s, BET was it, the 80s, 90s.
Right.
So I was watching it one Saturday morning, and I saw Lisa Johnson come on with Teen Summit. And Lisa was so classy and so intelligent, and I loved how she was having a conversation with these young people and making them think. And I was like, damn it, I want to do that. I want to work there. So it was Thanksgiving weekend. I put together my news tape. I went to DC. I didn't have an interview or anything set up. I just called them when I got in town. I landed like that Wednesday morning. No, Tuesday. I landed the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. I called them up and was like, you know what? I talked to Deborah Tain. She was a news director. I said, I'm in town. I'm originally from DC. I'm working here in Charleston. Would you have a few minutes just to meet with me tomorrow? And she was like, well, yeah, okay. She brushed me off, but she gave me a meeting. So I went over there. I maybe spent 30 minutes with Deborah Tain. Rest her soul. I love this woman, but I spent 30 minutes with her. I showed her my tape. I told her I was just in town working at the NBC affiliate. She's like, how long are you going to be in town? I said, well, I'm staying through Monday. And then I got to go back. Monday, she called me and said, hey, I want you to come back and talk to me again. This is a Monday after Thanksgiving. I go back to talk to her again. She's like, well, listen, we really don't have anything from you, but I like what you're doing. So, I want to make you an offer. Not sure what we're going to do with you yet, but come join us. And I was blown away. So I went back to Charleston with my ass up on my hips, like, fuck you.
Right.
They tried to sue me and everything. And I was like, fine, sue me, but you're doing me dirty. I know I got talent. I know I got skills, and they didn't know it, but I knew I had a job. So I was out. And, after that happened to me early on in my career, and it made me strong enough because watching how that played out for me made me stay true to myself and what I wanted to do and what I thought my career should be and how I wanted to carry myself in this business. And that stuck with me ever since. I made reference to sometimes where you have integrity or something like that, and it can work against you.
Right.
Because I got to BET and I thought I had made it to the Mecca. I thought, ooh, I'm with my people. This is a beautiful situation. And it didn't work out like that for me. And, everybody, I don't know if everybody knows, but I was actually fired from BET.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I was actually fired from BET. And it didn't make sense to me because behind Donnie Simpson's Q rating, I was next. That's how popular I was. That's how much the audience responded to me. And this is after Sherry Carter had been there, and Lisa was there, and Bev Smith was there, and all this. In the 3 years that I was at BET, my brand, because back then we really didn't have brands, but my brand had grown so much that I had really connected with the audience, first in news, then in sports, then in entertainment, then in music, that they loved Madelyne. And so when they fired me, it hurt my feelings so bad. It hurt me so bad because it was my people that were treating me the way I had just left the situation in Charleston.
Right.
And so you will never hear me badmouth BET because I'm still so proud of what Bob Johnson and Sheila Johnson were able to accomplish. And the reality is all of us were so young over there. If I went back through so many of the encounters I had with my managers, me too would have been just me.
Wow.
We talking about the 90s, you know, and
Right.
then I'm sorry, Reg, get back to your thing. I can just tell you stories.
No, we'll come back to that because that is part of what I want to know. But I did want to get to you mentioned that you wanted to be a White House correspondent and whatnot.
Yeah.
I just want to know, like, when you were in high school or finishing up, in high school, middle school, whatever, how did you know what you wanted to do? Because that's what I've tried to go back and talk about on my It's Always Personal
Yeah.
podcast is I didn't know what I wanted to do. And
Really?
now I'm over here, like I said, teaching myself how to do this and messing around all this stuff. I didn't realize why I was reading the Source magazine from cover
Mm,
to cover and why I had 50 of them in my closet.
yeah.
I didn't know that that's what my interest was in. And before you get to your answer, I just wanted to share honestly, it's a guy on Fox Sports right now. I can't even think of his name.
Hmm.
Nick Wright. And he mentioned that a couple months ago, he said that he idolized Bob Costas, and
Mm,
he said he went and looked up what Bob. He was from Kansas, I believe, from Kansas City, Nick Wright, and he said he went and looked up what Bob Costas did to get where he was, and
mhm.
so all the way from Kansas City, Nick Wright went to Syracuse because that's where Bob Costas went to school, and
Yeah.
he just took every step that he took.
Mhm.
I guess I just wasn't on it like that back in the day, but I didn't look at Stuart Scott and go Google. Well, there was no Google, but I didn't go look and see what Stuart Scott did to be where he was or what you were doing. Everybody just seemed galaxies away from me here in Dayton, Ohio, and nobody in my family had done anything. So it just clicked for me it was like a light bulb went off that just my circle and my surrounding and my circumstances kind of limited that situation.
Yeah.
So how did you know? Now that I ran my mouth.
Well, it's funny because my family really thought I was going to be a doctor. I
Okay.
was super smart, very good in science, okay in math, but had an interest for caring for people and doing things. And again, I excelled in science. So we really thought I was going to be a doctor. And then I think it was fourth grade. I heard my sister say she wanted to be on TV. And I thought, oh, that's cool. And so I'm listening to her talk about she was going to be a journalist and everything like this. And I said, huh, you know? And so my dad was shooting it down because, again, my dad's old school and was under the impression the only way you can be on TV is, from sleeping with people and doing this and doing that. As old school Southern black man, this was his reality. And so I kept it to myself. And when I got in middle school, I started writing for myself, writing my own stories. And I knew I had the aptitude because just like I was really great at science, I was excellent in language arts. I could write my butt off in first grade. I mean, I was just writing things. And I was a great speaker. I think the first time I actually got up and recited something, I was 3 or 4 years old. And
Okay.
I literally learned a poem in the summer program that my sister, older sister, I'm the youngest, my older sister was supposed to do, but they were nervous. They didn't want to do it. So they gave it to me. So they actually rehearsed me and practiced me. And then maybe I was 4 years old. I stood up in front of this entire auditorium and recited this poem or whatever it was then by myself. So that let me know then that I had the aptitude. And really at 4 years old, I did. I started reading when I was 3 years old, I think, on a road trip in the car. And I have to say this because I like to put things in perspective. I think I was so advanced because I had two older sisters, and anything they did, I idolized it and I wanted to do it. So if they were reading, I was over their shoulder reading too. It's 3, 4 years old. And I picked it up. And my mother was an English teacher and she worked with me. So this was just an innate natural ability that I had to be a storyteller, to be a writer, and to not get nervous. And so when I was in middle school and I started thinking about college and everything, I kept thinking, I really want to go to college for 4 years and then another 4 years and then 4 years residency. And, I didn't want to study that much. I just didn't. So I said, I got this talent. Let me grow this. And that's what I did. By the time I got into high school, I was on the paper. I was, we had our morning announcements. I was doing all that kind of stuff. So I knew that I had a voice, that I had a personality, and that I had the aptitude and intellect to back it up. I'm going for journalism. So that's how I knew.
Okay. Okay. I'm jumping around a little bit, but we do have a couple people watching the show on YouTube and whatnot, and I want it to be interactive and whatnot.
Okay.
Let me jump back to Jennifer Williams. I think she might also be a HU grad, I believe.
Nice it.
You can correct me, Jen, if I'm wrong. But she asked, and I was getting ready to get to this, but she asked, how do you feel about the change of influence BET has had over the years, specifically there in the DC area? She's
Mm.
in she's in the DMV.
Oh, hey
She's
girl.
actually a classmate of mine. I told her what I was doing today.
She
But
tuned in. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for tuning in. Um, if I'm honest, I appreciate what BET does from a production standpoint. Uh, Content wise, I'm disappointed because we've gotten so far away from being a voice for our people and for being the source for our people. Because back in the 90s, when we did news and our voices and the specials that Ed Gordon traveled all over the world to do, we have a void for that right now. You know, and the general market does some of it, but they don't do it like you would do it when it's really personal to you. And
right,
so I'm disappointed with that. But at the end of the day, everything is a business. And if this is how Bob Johnson saw the evolution of his dream playing out, so be it. You know, I can't force my wants and desires on him or Viacom. That's what's happening. As far as being in the community, I don't know what BET does in the community anymore. When we were at BET, we were everywhere,
right,
everywhere. I mean, if something was happening in the country that had a Black spin to it, we were there. Angela, Ed, myself, Sherry, Lisa, Dejour, Prince Dejour, all the sports guys, Charlie Neal. We were at HBCUs. We were at the Million Man March. We were in South Africa with Mandela. We were, you know, live with it. Had there been a Black Lives Matter movement, we would have been there. We would have been there. And people would turn us on to see what we had to say about it after they turned off NBC, CBS, ABC. You know, so I miss that. But who knows what's next? You know, everything, you know, there are trends to everything. Unfortunately, not unfortunately, let me say that because if I got a call tomorrow, I'd be on the Housewives. But reality TV is what the moneymaker is right now, you know, and so it's about business. This is what is happening with BET.
got you. Also, Corey Evans was in here. I asked you who was your first big interview that kind of made you nervous and whatnot. He asked who was your most favorite interview, and before you get into that, I saw where you in your bio it said that you'd interviewed Trump before, Mike Tyson, and a bunch of other people. But to
Yeah.
his question, who was your most favorite interview?
I think that the conversation I had with Mike Tyson might have been my favorite. And maybe that's just because you just mentioned his name to me. But, and I tell you why, Mike had just come out of prison. Um, we were in Connecticut at his house, and he was just so honest and genuine and accountable and real with it that I fell in love with Mike Tyson. I'm a Mike Tyson fan to this day. This man can do no wrong for me because he is a genuine human being. He recognizes his faults, he recognizes his mistakes, he's accountable for them, and he wants to do right and live right. And I love that about him. We talked about, you know, what happened with the young lady. We talked about, you know, his boxing career, his anger issues. We talked about everything. And he just was very candid and just very comfortable in sharing. And, you know, I loved interviewing him. Who else that might have been my favorite? It's hard to say because I went from, you know, news over into entertainment. And so I've talked to everybody from Denzel to Jada Pinkett Smith to all the R&B stars and hip hop stars of the 90s. And I can't say I have a favorite. I made some really good friends. I was really impressed with a lot of people and really fell in love with a lot of people. And there were people I was really disappointed by, you know, getting that chance to sit down with, oh my gosh, I'm going to interview so and so and so, and be like, ooh, afterwards, like,
Yeah, I've
so
been
disappointed. But again, that's humanity. People will let you down. It's just the way it is.
I was actually getting ready to start with the BET, but I wanted to get those questions in there since people were kind enough to spend some time over here.
Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks, Corey.
Both of them live in the DMV area too.
Okay. When COVID's over, maybe I'll see you in the street somewhere.
Gotcha. You just touched on one thing that was me talking to myself. Why is it that BET, and I think in retrospect, like Black entertainment TV was kind of shortchanging itself because it was more Black lifestyle with, like you mentioned, with faith shows on faith, the sports, HBCU coverage, travel, cooking, all of that stuff. It was awesome. But I just felt like maybe 7 years ago, I started noticing what's going on now at ESPN, where it's turned a lot of mainstream viewers off with so much discussion about race and whatnot. Although, the most popular leagues are comprised of, over 70% of Black athletes. And there's constantly all of these different challenges going on and whatnot. But my thought was, like, 7 years ago, how could BET not capitalize on that? And I just want, maybe you could tell me, is it an issue with, is one issue with being able to get the licensing or whatever to show the footage or the highlights? But why weren't we helping these brothers and sisters tell these stories in the way that you just spoke about?
I can't answer that question because, again, at the end of the day, you have to remember that everything is a business. And if you don't see the value of, and when I say you, I mean when leadership doesn't see the value and that people will tune in to see these kind of stories, they move in the direction they think is more profitable. And that's just what's happened. It's really come down to, numbers and money. And this is easy. It doesn't cost no production costs aren't attached to it. We can shoot it. We can, put it on the air. Boom, we got a moneymaker. News costs money. Documentaries cost money. You got to get sponsorships. You got to get, well, first of all, any network that does news and documentaries has to pay for it up front. They really don't get sponsored because it can't be influenced. Okay. So you might run commercials through it, but you have to be very careful about getting something underwritten. And again, just to, put on, if this is your focus as far as entertainment, you want to create television programming, that's okay. And this is what the direction that they moved in. Maybe they'll move back, but I can't. It's business. This is what they want to produce,
Gotcha. Actually, I think it was Ray Rice was when the situation went down with him and his wife, or his fiance at the time, in the elevator. And again, that was when I started noticing, like, nobody's talking about the real thing. At that same time, I was in a bowling league, and it was a couple of young women in the bowling league in the bowling league who had young boyfriends. I mean, they were young, obviously, but a couple of them had been beat up. And I thought there was a bigger discussion there to be had of why that situation escalated into what it did and how it played out on screen. I thought it was like Ray Rice was just vilified, like he just wanted to beat his fiance up. And I'm like, nah, maybe it's something there. And I understand he couldn't come back from that or after that and whatnot. But I'm still like, this is not just isolated to this one incident.
Right.
It might be some problems in the community that we have in our relationships and how we handle anger and how we, work through adversity in our relationships. It was more there than just get him out of here and be done with him. And even after he went through all of the, he tried to make amends and atone for it and all of that, but it was over for him. And like I said, I just felt like the coverage on ESPN and what I was hearing from some of my coworkers who were football fans, I was like, man, y'all just missing the whole story. But then I was like, BET could be in that void.
Well, it's unfortunate what happened all the way around. number one, it's inexcusable of what Ray did.
It is. It was.
But the reality, to the point I think you're making, he's not the only one in the league who did that. Okay, we're talking about Brett Favre. We're talking about, and I can never pronounce his name, Ben Roethlisberger. How do you say his name? And I know you're trying to learn his name because I don't like him. I said because he has a history of beating women.
Yes.
So when you think about these two guys who had rape charges and domestic abuse charges, and they were allowed to continue on with their careers, yeah, it was wrong what happened to Ray. What Ray did was wrong. Let me be sure that people understand that I feel what he did was wrong. And you put up a lot there, Reg, because it's true. We are a product of our environment. Obviously, there was some anger issues there. Obviously, there was some mental health issues there. Obviously, even for the young lady, she had some mental health issues because she should have walked away. But that's me sitting here in this chair judging and giving you my opinion. I didn't live that. And so I really don't have the right to have an opinion about what happened. I do know if we're only going to look at it from what happened professionally, that was wrong. It was wrong. And in my opinion, he would have a case for discrimination. He should have sued the league. He should have done exactly what Kaepernick is doing right now. And case in point, who's the white guy who just beat up his black girlfriend, the football player?
I didn't even look. I didn't even click on it. I
can't even think of his name right now. I think he's out of the league or he's suspended or something. I don't know if it's permanent, but I want to watch this because I'm like you. I like to watch parallels, and I want to see how his story plays out compared to what they did to Ray, because they made Ray an actual demon. They demonized this man. And Don't get me wrong, what he did in that elevator, that was wrong. That was wrong. I wanted to find Ray and slap him, and kick his ass, because he didn't have to do what he did. I don't care what she said, what she did. I don't care. He did not have to put his hands on her the way that he did. Should he have lost his career about it? We live in a society now, because of all of this connectivity, where public opinion is so influential that if they don't like what you did, you gotta go. You gotta go, because it comes back to profitability again. If they complain enough, that's going to affect your sponsors. That's going to affect your money. We can't use you no more. And did you hear what I said? We can't use
right
no more. So, and that's really what it plays. That's what it boils down to. If they can't use you, they don't need you. It's that simple. Then you got racism going on. I mentioned Kaepernick for a minute. It makes no sense that boy is not that boy, that man. I'm 100 years old, so I say that boy. But it makes no sense this man is not playing in this league today. He's ready. He could have been playing, but it's because a group of white men, privileged white men, own and have the authority to make these arbitrary decisions about who they like and who they don't like, and what they're going to stand up for and what they're not going to stand up for. They like, you can get your black ass and walk. We don't need you. You're causing problems, and again, coming back to profitability, what Kaepernick was doing was affecting their sponsors, because the white contingent complained. They didn't like it, and it always comes back to business.
Right.
Now, they've reached a point now where they could do right by him and still do well with business. But that's a whole nother hour.
Right. So, you break into BET with these news briefs, the 1 minute segments and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you get over to being the anchor and reporting and whatnot. Mm-hmm. What was your impression of starting with that?
They didn't know what to do with me when I showed up at BET. I had the journalism background, so I did it. I could do news, but they already had a star. They had Ed Gordon, and Ed wasn't going nowhere. And we were working in, and I'm going to say it, because again, it was the 90s. And like I said, had we had Me Too then, it would have been a whole lot about just me. But because they already had their star, and the men who ran that network, because we really didn't have a woman vice president. I think Debbie Lee was the only one in that C-suite kind of situation, but she was illegal. So she didn't really have a lot to say about programming. But the men who ran the programming only wanted to see us be attractive and intelligent, but from an entertainment perspective. And I really think that's what happened because I was pitching news magazine shows to them. Okay, Ed can be your anchor, but I can do a 60 minutes for you. I can do, so many different ideas that I pitched them, and they just wouldn't do it. The next thing I knew, I was filling in for Sherry Carter with my legs crossed, my boobs out, my booty showing, because I'm a Black woman and I'm attractive and I'm shaped like a Black woman. So they put me over there, and I was like, I can do anything. So I don't even give a shit. I'll do it, and I did the hell out of it. Then I was filling in for Donnie. Then I was filling in for Charlie Neal. I was at the All-Star game. I was at the Super Bowl. They didn't know what to do with me because as a journalist, I literally could do it all. See? So finally they decided, and again, I don't know how they think because I was such a marketable talent for them. Had I been in that chair, I would have grown that. I would have been like, shit, she can do everything. Let's give her this. Let's create this for Madelyne instead of just popping Madelyne in these cookie cutter things that are already there. Let's create something, but they didn't. And again, it's their thing. So they did what they wanted to do. So I started with Newsbriefs. I filled in for Ed. I filled in for Donnie. I filled in for Sherry. I filled in for Angela. I finally landed on Video LP and I blew up. Because in addition to being a music fan and knowing the music and a hip hop head, and R&B head too, I was a journalist. So I'm not just going to let you show up and we're just going to talk about your CD. We're going to talk about, we're going to talk about your kids. We're going to talk about the rape charges. We're going to talk about how you got kicked off tour because you were high all the time. I started doing that whole intersection of entertainment and news, which is everything that's happening right now.
Right.
And my popularity just skyrocketed. And because I was attracted, and I'm telling it all now, because I was attractive, I started to become bigger than the network because people were calling up asking to be on Video LP with me and not Donnie. And that became a problem. Because you can have your Ed Gordon, you can have your Bev Smith, you can have your Sherry, your Lisa, your Charlie, your Madelyne, but you can't fuck with Donnie Simpson.
What? Right.
Donnie's the king. So if people are calling up talking about, yeah, Video Soul is cool, but I really want to be on that couch, on that red couch with Madelyne. Can you put me on that? That became a problem. And I've always been a very genuine and authentic person. I've never had an ego. But I've always been, because the crew and I would clash sometimes because I was so trained that, I'm ready. When that light comes on, let's get it. We're doing work. So I was probably young and harder on the crew than I needed to be. But they sat in that studio with me and enjoyed every show I ever did because I asked the questions that just weren't there on the checklist about, what the label sent me to ask. I never will forget the time that Redman wanted to come back after the show and kick my ass because
really?
I had to call my friends who are artists to intervene and talk to him because he was coming back to DC to fuck me up. It was that simple. Oh my gosh, because they had just done that movie, Higher Learning, and it was all about smoking weed and being high and this and that and this and that. And we're talking about the movie. And then put my journalist cap on, I flipped the switch and said, but what do you think this is doing to the young minds of high school people who see you just wanting to get high all day? And I get it that it helps your creativity. And they went with it. They talked to me and we had a conversation. The label went nuts. So when they got back to New York to Def Jam, I think they were Def Jam, they read the Riot Act, which made them mad at me. So Redman is putting this out there. He gonna fuck me up. And I'm thinking, we ain't about to have no Dr. Dre and D Barnes situation. Right. Everybody gonna mess me up. So I'm calling this one, I'm calling that one, I'm calling that. They're all calling Redman, trying to calm him down. Needless to say, it ran its course. It never happened. I bet you if I saw Redman today, it would be all love. But yeah, it was touchy because I didn't do your straight by the book interviews, but people loved that. They loved it. When Jodeci had the rape charges slapped on him, I'm talking to them about, coming up out the country and, y'all country boys and where y'all get all this inspiration about love, what you know about love. And, it's a great interview. And then I say, okay, now we got to talk about the rape. And you can see the entire energy on the set change. But I didn't back down. I asked the questions. They were difficult questions. KC got a little heated, got a little angry, but we had to do that because in journalism, it would be a disservice if I sat there and pretended like this wasn't going on, you
Right.
know? And so I would ask the questions. And I think that made me really popular. People liked that. They liked Christopher Williams told me one time, he said, what people like about you, and I'm talking about Chris Williams, the R&B star. He said,
Mhm.
you got an edge, Madelyne. He said, and you don't back down. You're not afraid. You'll go there. And I was like, well, that's my job. That's my job. So I think the fact that I was so popular, I had Michael Jordan. No, Michael Jordan talked to nobody.
No.
Ahmad Rashad and George Michael right here in sports in DC. He talked to nobody. I did 3 interviews with Michael Jordan. They
Wow.
fucked them up. To the point where, and this is when I got fired. I had set up a special I wanted to do. It was called Mike, and Me. So
Okay.
Michael Jordan, Michael Jackson, and Mike Tyson. Those were the 3 mics I wanted to do. That would have been the bomb news magazine talk show with a woman talking to these 3 big men. So I already had Michael Jordan on. One of my buddies was talking to Michael Jackson for me. So I feel like that was about to be locked up too. Mike Tyson was in, he watches BET. He sees Madelyne with the big thighs or whatever they used to say about me, with the goods. So he's in. When I got the letter from Michael Jordan saying that, no, not the letter. When I went to leadership and said, hey, I got this interview with Michael Jordan. I want to do it. Ed Gordon had a fit because as the lead news person and evolving into this entertainment spot he was trying to carve out for himself, which I'd already pitched, he felt like if Michael Jordan came to the network and did an interview, it should be with him.
Right.
And I was like, he don't want to talk to you. He wants to talk to me. I've already interviewed him. I'm sorry for you, but I've already interviewed him. What are you talking about? So I got called in by the vice president at the time and tell me about this Michael Jordan interview. And I'm like, what about it? I think it's so exciting. I'm like, I already got, the questions laid out. This is this. He's going to come down. We're going to do this. We're going to do a lifestyle, cameras. I got it all produced in my head because this is my background. I know how to do this stuff.
Right.
He says to me, well, I want to know if Michael Jordan wants to do the interview or does he just want to see you again? I was like, what the fuck? I said, what difference does it make? This is a get for the network.
Right. This is
verbatim how this conversation went down. This is a get for the network. I had no idea. This part is in the book, so I'm not going to tell it all. But what he said to me was, I don't care if you get an interview with God. If I don't say you can do it, it's not happening. And I was like, oh my gosh. First of all, I'm God-fearing. So to say something like that to me, it gave me chills. It really freaked me out.
Right.
I was like, what? I said, nobody is talking to Michael Jordan, but Ahmad Rashad, George Michaels. What are you saying? He's like, I want to see if he wants to talk to you or if I want to see if he really wants to do the interview, if he just wants to be around you again. I'm like, whatever. So that goes on, so I called Mike. I'm like, they don't want to let me do the interview. He's like, what? Like they want Ed to do it. He's like, I don't want to talk to Ed. That's what I said. So I said, okay, they're telling me that I need the league or somebody from the team to send a letter saying that you've agreed to do this interview with me. So I called Michael and I'm saying, hey, I need this letter. He's like, write the letter. I'm like, shit, I'll write the letter. I'm going to write it. I'll write the letter. So he says, send it to this guy. I send it to that guy. The guy signs it, sends it back. That's still not good enough. I got a letter from the team now saying Michael wants to do the interview with Madelyne. Still not good enough. Long story short, from that point, because you can just see from this interview, I stand up for myself. I'm very vocal. I'm very verbal. It got to be kind of a pissing contest between me and the vice president. And 2 weeks later, I was fired.
Wow. So this kind of goes into one thing that I'm kind of fighting, and some of the stuff that I was saying on Instagram and some of the stuff that I'm covering on It's Always Personal is that I feel like, especially on YouTube, and even Instagram, people that go live over there, there's so much focus on racism and white, black, But you're telling me what I'm talking, what I'm, where I'm coming from, and how I'm trying to address things. That's not the only fight that's out there. I mean, here you are fighting against this network and trying to do things to help the network win. So I guess when I sit here and I listen to some of the individuals who sit and just constantly talk about racism, is like, you have to be able, like you did, I'm assuming, you have to be, you're going to be challenged by something. Somebody's going to be some kind of resistance to what you're trying to do, and you're going to have to be able to think and adjust and make the next move. So I just, here, 20 some 30 years later, with me coming out of high school, we're still talking about white and black stuff. And I'm like, that's not the biggest challenges to me. I'm sorry. It's just
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're going into sexism now, and probably black on black sexism, just from what I described just now, which is why what happened with Jamel Hill was so groundbreaking. When they tried to silence her, when they tried to destroy her career, because that's what the white boys was trying to do. They were trying to destroy Jamel. And for her to be able to emerge the winner that she is, first of all, her contract paid out, enough startup money to start her own platform, and still doing the stuff that she wants to do.
Right.
That's major. It's groundbreaking. It's just so, I mean, when I saw that whole thing play out, I was so proud of her. I was so happy for her. I was just elated, because when you look at the Megyn Kellys, who can go in there and cry and say, "You're treating me bad," and get a fat paycheck and go on out. When you look at the Greta, forget her name now,
Yeah,
all the white girls who came out with this Me Too and sexual harassment thing and got paid from it and were able to launch, their own networks. To see that happen for Jamel was just big. If I had known back in the 90s, and remember this, nobody at BET back then was over 30, including the vice presidents. They might have been 33, 32. We were all so young and so inexperienced doing all the great things that we did. You didn't know about lawyers and attorneys and brands, and you you just didn't know about that. I think also part of my problem was I didn't want to be the one to reveal the dirty laundry or the shit that happened with the only thing that all of us loved about being black that was on TV. You know what I mean?
Right.
And 100 years later, I can talk about it now because the world has changed so much, and it didn't just happen to me. It's happening to so many people now. But at that time, when that was all we had, I didn't want to be that one. Stupid, but I was young. I think I was 20, 25 or 26 when I got fired. That's young in this game.
Yes.
That's pretty young. And we didn't have agents back then. We didn't have attorneys. We didn't understand HR. We didn't even have HR. We didn't have an HR department. We didn't have that. So you didn't know to really complain. And what you just said to me was sexist and wrong and illegal. I didn't know that. So just to watch the growth that we've had and the advancements that we've had, it's wonderful to see. It's still not enough. It's still not enough. And you're right. As a Black community, we do have so many more issues than just white folks doing us wrong. We have so much of us doing each other wrong that we have to address. But you got to remember, nothing happens overnight. Nothing changes overnight.
Right.
We have got to work. First of all, we got to get each other to talk to each other. Because that situation with, just to use this because you brought this up, the Ray Rice situation, at some point, there should have been some intervention somewhere where a family member, a friend, or somebody, because that wasn't the first time it happened. This is, their interaction. This is how they get down. Somebody should have been on the outside looking in and say, "Hey, I'm going to get y'all some help. We need to go over here and handle this. We need to straighten this out before it gets worse," because it got worse. But as Black people, we are so resistant to that kind of thing because of the stigmas that are attached to it, because of what's in our heads. We don't want to look like we got problems. We don't want to look like, and all that comes from because we've been told for so many years that we got problems, that we not shit, that we ain't good. All this stuff has been baked into us that it's hard for us to get beyond that and do things to help ourselves. But I can see where we're starting to do that now. This Gen Z, these are the kids out here. They ain't messing around. They have it figured out. And it's a blessing that they do. They're very vocal, they're very open about their challenges. And I think it's because they've had the benefit of us as parents on the other side of the shit we had to take, who were saying, well, that ain't right. Now that I'm an adult and I know how this should have played out, let me get the help that you need to go and get this fixed, you know? But those are people who are already in positions and professions that have been exposed to that kind of stuff. We still got a whole bunch of Black people that don't have that exposure, and they're suffering because of it. You know, and think about most of your football players. Think about the backgrounds that they came from. And I don't know Ray's history. I don't. And I'm not making excuses for Ray or for any man who puts his hands on a woman. But coming out of certain backgrounds, these athletes are coming from neighborhoods that aren't affluent, that don't have exposure, that don't have access. And so they don't know the difference, and they weren't raised, or they don't have the resources to be able to correct situations and problems early on. And now we're getting to the point where we're doing that now. These parents now are intervening earlier as Black people to get the help and the correction that their children need. And it's slowly making a change, slowly making a change. We're also becoming more accepting of each other. You know, before, where you had a relative or a friend or something who had a problem, you didn't really want to be down with them because you didn't want that whack juice to get off on you too. Now
Right.
we're finding the resources to try to direct people and not hiding it so much, which is why mental health is such a prominent discussion now in the Black community. Male-female relations are such a prominent discussion in the Black community now. We still haven't figured it out, you know, but we need to. And the only way to do it is to keep working at it like we are. I think where I am now in my life, in addition to the news and entertainment stuff that I want to do, I would love to spend time working with Black men and Black women to show each other that we are not adversaries, and we got to cut that shit out. We have got to talk to each other, accept each other where we are. And if it's not working, go ahead and be somewhere else. You know, if this isn't working for you and me, Reg, it's cool. You do you, Reg, but I'm going to go be me somewhere else. And we got to teach people to be strong enough to walk away. We got to teach women and men to have the confidence that if you do walk away, it's somebody else out there for you. You know, we get caught in that a lot too, that we don't want to be alone, or, oh, I can't be single. You know, I've been married twice. I had so many men. And this is no disrespect to either one of my husbands, but I've always had that confidence in me knowing this man roll out. Men are like buses and trains. It's another one pulling in right behind his ass, you know? And that's how I came up. But that's my level of comfort and confidence, probably from the environment that I came out of. A lot of women didn't get that training. I would like to have those kind of discussions with women, because it's the simplest shit. But if you don't hear it, you don't know it and you don't believe it. But it's true. It's so
Right.
true. You know, yeah, we got a lot of ills as Black people, but we got a lot of wins too. We got a lot of wins, and you see that. We got to start celebrating each other more. The cancel situation that we do in this cancel culture, sometimes I'm on board with it, sometimes I'm not. You know, sometimes I think it's just too reactive. And again, I think we need to have discussions. I think everybody is redeemable. I really do. I think everybody is redeemable. I think you got to atone for your problems and the bad situations that you created. I think you got to pay your dues sometimes, but I ain't throwing
Right.
nobody away. I ain't throwing nobody away. I ain't throwing nobody Black away unless you run with Trump. Then you're on your own.
Uh-oh.
Then
Uh-oh.
you're on your own. But even saying that, I rode Cube like a horse, because I really was so disappointed in what he did with that contract with Black America, which we have not heard another word about since. Um, I gave him the blues on social media, and I took a lot of flack about that. Bill Cosby, I gave him the blue. First of all, I didn't. I should have gone harder at Bill from the beginning, but I just didn't believe it. You know, I knew
That
about
was a
it.
tough one.
I knew about it, but the way I knew about it was that these women were willing participants, and you can't, me on the outside looking in, you can't be part of a booty call and then get mad because he don't call you back again. You know what I'm saying? And I think that as women, we have to be honest with ourselves too and not take advantage of an opportunity in a situation. And sometimes I think that happens, especially with the prevalence of Me Too, how that was going. They were going after everybody after men. And I was like, well, how much of this is just you mad? And how
Right.
much of this really happened? You know, and that's just me on the outside looking in saying, and I'm not disrespecting women, but everybody lies, you know? Who's lying and who's telling the truth? Let's just really look at this before we start destroying lives over this stuff. Because
Right.
we were on, it was a runaway train. They were like, you and you and you and you and you and you
Everybody.
every week. It was a black man. And the white boys were skating free until Matt Lauer. But his stuff was so egregious, he couldn't skate, you know?
Him and Charlie Rose as well.
Charlie Rose. I got in trouble about that because I got in Gail's ass on social media because I was like, how you going to sit up here and crucify R. Kelly? And don't get me wrong, R. Kelly's fucked up. And we knew that back in the 90s. We got a situation. But how are you going to sit up here and be so hard on R. Kelly? Michael Jackson. How are you going to sit up here and be so hard on Michael Jackson, Gail, and Oprah? And you sitting beside Charlie Rose every morning, grinning and skinning, and you ain't said shit.
Never.
You ain't said nothing.
Never.
Don't tell me you didn't know. You can't make me believe that. So that's our own again stigmas and integrity because she gotta eat. She need her job. What she look like going up against the network? You know, she ain't Megan Kelly. What's the other white girl? I can't think of her name right now. But anyway,
Van Susteren. Van Susteren.
Not that Greta. It was somebody else.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah, I can't think of the name right now.
Me neither. But anyway, the point is, I was mad at Gail, but I understood Gail. The Snoop Dogg thing, I was mad at Gail, but I was also like, Gail, you can't sit up here and pretend like, you don't have any onus in this situation.
Right.
At least say, maybe I shouldn't have, gone this hard. I should have said something about Charlie. There's no way she sat in that chair across that desk from him every morning for a year or two and didn't hear the scuttlebutt. It just doesn't work like that. So anyway.
Yeah, she's not that naive. I wanted to get on with life after BET. Like you said, you guys did all of this stuff by your mid-20s and whatnot.
Yeah.
You have this phenomenal Q rating, and you're a legend, in hip hop after that Tribe Called Quest line and whatnot. You're doing your thing. Why did everybody just move on? And it seems like your group, we didn't see many of you guys resurface on similar levels. Whereas after this, the later group with the one brother went to a couple of them went to like Entertainment Tonight or something. Terrence J. And then the one with the braids too that cut his dreads. Yeah, all of them went and did stuff.
By that time, all of us had taken all the lumps that people understood about brands and marketing and social media presence and agents. See, None of us had agents. Okay. None of us had anybody promoting us. It really started with Joe Clair. Joe Clair was the first one to break through the clutter, because I think Joe got either a Nike commercial or a Foot Locker commercial, something. But
yeah.
That was big coming out of BET. People started to value the brand presence that we carried. And that's because the network started to promote people and understood marketing and branding and started to promote that. When we were there, the only brand that existed was Bob Johnson and Johnny Simpson. That was all that counted. That was all that counted, And so that's all that was able to rise above and emerge out of BET. Ed Gordon made a little name for himself and he made it to MSNBC, and I'm not sure what happened, but the next thing I knew, Lester Holt was there,
Right.
And Ed had disappeared. And he's had some starts and stops along the way, but he really hasn't had the trajectory that Lester Holt has enjoyed. So it was just timing. And for the ones of us who actually paved the way, we were ahead of our time. We were really ahead of our time. Had we been doing what we did then, now, we would be major brands. For me personally, When I left BET, I got blacklisted. I got blackballed.
Wow.
So nobody would hire me. I went to VH1. It was an easy transition based on the following that I had and the Q rating and the popularity. They should have picked me up. BET called and talked to VH1, and that killed it. MTV should have wouldn't touch me. And and it was really bad because the way that they dogged me, they tried to make me look like I was a whore. They tried to make me look like, I was this loose woman. They tried to make me look like everything that people are using now to make money with, everything that they attribute to Meg and Cardi and the Kardashians who have made a fucking multi-million dollar, probably billion at this point,
Yeah.
empire.
Yeah.
They try to put that on me. Oh, she's sleeping with this one. She's sleeping with that one. She's sleeping with this one. I didn't do that. Did I date people? Absolutely. But as a woman, I'm not supposed to date, um, in their mind and in their eyes. But that was again part of that whole patriarchal, sexist environment where they came out and they gossiped about me so much. And what they didn't understand was that the key to a good interview is relationship.
Right.
And
I agree.
so if Teddy Riley came to town and said, I want to take this girl to dinner, I was going to dinner. And you know why I went to dinner? Because that was my pre-interview. I sit at dinner and I ask you all kind of questions and that's how Michael Jordan and I got together. I met Michael Jordan at a celebrity golf tournament that BET sent me to play in. He was there. He saw me, latched on to me, and then found out I was cool. We were inseparable the rest of the weekend. I've never slept with Michael Jordan, never had an intimate situation with Michael Jordan, never cheated, nothing. Michael Jordan represented to me an interview. He was the get for me. It just was easier because we had a relationship. We were friends. They don't get that. Had Ed Gordon done that, it would have been cool. As a woman, I got to be fucking him, you know? And it's so unfortunate. And that's what I'm talking about. Again, I keep going back to this Me Too situation. That was wrong. That
Wow.
was wrong. Michael Jordan, Gerald Levert. Who else did they pin on me? Wait a minute. See, this is why I'm still not good at marketing because I got a book coming out, and all of this is in the book, and I'm sitting up here telling you everything. And
It's gonna live on YouTube. I mean, it'll be out there.
but I know, but it's a laundry list this long of who I slept with, coming out of BET, and it's so absurd and it's so ridiculous. And in all fairness, some of the guys were lying too because that was cool to say they had bagged me, because I was Madelyne, And then when the song came out, I was really Madelyne. But I didn't get down like that, I was a journalist. I understood what everybody understands in this business. You got to have relationship to get people to open up to you and talk to you. And I was good at that. I was good at it.
Had this VP done this job, or they just managed everything but didn't know how the work got done?
I think he had a background in television before, but even with that, having a background in television and coming to run a network, it's totally different, Understanding the business and how all these pieces fit together for the benefit of the network and just being thrust into this position to do it, we were all so young. And I just keep coming back to that. So young, inexperienced, learning on the fly. We were literally building the airplane while we were flying it,
Right.
Literally. And we did damn good work. I mean, even today, nothing could touch BET in the 90s. You just couldn't. You couldn't. BET in the 80s couldn't touch BET in the 90s. It was like this explosion where they found all the right talent and we killed it. When we got on, we killed it. We had the right producers. We had the right energy, the right vibe, the right connection because we were young and hip hop was so big and newsmakers were still kind of relevant where we could get to them, that it was just the perfect storm for us in a Black situation, and we killed it.
So how shocked were you then, or Well, you were already gone then by the time that by Bob when he sold
Oh yeah.
network to Viacom and whatnot.
Mhm.
So how did you look at it then, knowing what you guys did and all the pioneering that you did and everything that you accomplished
Mhm.
and taking it to the levels that you did, and then to turn around in '06 when things kind of start going in a different direction.
Yeah.
How do you look at all of that?
I think Stephen Hill really tried at the beginning. I think he really tried to continue that role of making us the voice, the source, the go-to for Black important topics, not just entertainment, but Black importance. Um, but again, it came down to money. And Viacom is like, we're gonna take you, you're gonna make us some money. You know, how if I can't use you, I don't need you. And now that you're over here in our portfolio, what's in your bag is really what happened. And I think Stephen did a great job with what he did, because he got the award shows going and looking
Mhm.
really good. You
Right.
know, he was able to do groundbreaking things and produce programming or get programming, on the air that hadn't been done before for a Black network, and that was great. But I just think that it comes down to what you want to fight for, what you're gonna fall on the sword for. And if the fight is gonna be harder and you run the risk of losing your position, I'm gonna do what you want me to do. And I'm gonna make you some money doing that. And I think that's what happened. I really think that's what happened.
What do you think fed into it was like all of a sudden everything had to go street, and hip hop and whatnot. We totally went away from the art. And I mean, the music was changing as well.
Mhm.
I guess, how did you, because you've been in the forefront of Black pop culture for all this time, and then we hit and it turned me off. And I'm kind of like different areas of entertainment for me just disappeared for a long period of time. It is making a bit of a comeback now,
Mhm.
but like I said, when it was this switch to like the streets and hip hop and youth, how'd you how'd you process
Are
all of it?
you talking about like gangster rap? Are you talking about when we went in that direction and the
I mean, pretty much,
rap?
pretty
Yeah,
much.
all that was by design. There's conspiracy theories on the internet about how these record label execs got together in a room and made this decision in a table and said this is about profitability and this private prison system. And that was a real conversation that happened. Was I at the table? Absolutely not. But you're not going to tell me with the sources that I have that told me that this happened, that this went down that way. You're going to tell me all of them are lying. You're not going to tell me that because these are people that had access to those people that made that decision. And so, you know, I don't know how many times I can say that, Reg, because it's unfortunate. Because even saying this and having these conversations with you, it all comes back down to the money. Because now it's all about pussy. Everything is about women and sex. And, now women are the aggressors with sexuality and stuff now. And that's a market too. You know, it always comes back to the money. And that's just what every evolution goes in. They don't really care about doing what's right. But even with that, people have got to keep in mind and teach their children that this gangster rap, this money rap, this, sex rap, all this stuff that's swirling around, because it's all the same, different generations, just different topics.
Right, right.
You still got to think for yourself. You still got to get up and be able to live with yourself. So no matter what you see Cardi doing or Megan doing or this one doing or whatever, whether you agree with it or not, and quite frankly, I'm proud of them. I love everything they're doing because if the Kardashians could make all the money they're making off their bodies and their coochies, get that money, girl. Get that money, Cardi. Get that money, Erica Banks. Get that money, Meg. Get that money because at the end of the day, I'm an actress. I'm gonna go out here. I'm gonna rap. I'm gonna sing. I'm gonna do this act. Then I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna be a wife and a mom. I'm good with that. You know, Marilyn Monroe was an actress who did it. What's her name? Liz Taylor. White girls been doing it forever. They've been doing it forever. So why not? I ain't mad at them. Get that money. get that money. My daughter teases me. She's like, Mommy, I did everything right. I went to school. I went to college. I graduated. I got a law degree. I'm an S, I'm all this, and I'm broke. I said, well, I can get you some butt implants tomorrow. What you want to do? And I'm joking, but she's broke. Broke is all relative.
Right.
You know what I mean? Broke is all relative. She lives very good and very well, but she ain't got Beyonce money. She ain't got, their money. But life is good. With all that money comes a whole bunch of more problems. Diddy didn't lie about that.
Definitely.
He didn't lie about that. And I actually enjoy Cardi. I actually enjoy Megan. I love it because they celebrate their bodies. And women should be able to do that. You should be able to celebrate your body. But as a consumer of that, you got to think for yourself and understand this is an act. They're not really walking around whopping it up all over the house, This is their niche they've carved out to make some money with, and good for them. You find your niche and make your money over there,
I know, and if Jennifer's still in the chat, I know me and her have had that conversation about the Cardis and the Megs and whatnot. And for me, I know I've said some things, but I didn't, like you said, I understand what they're doing, and also take a look at the men who had to be behind them and help them do what they're doing.
Exactly.
So I guess for me, I hate the whole situation from the sense that I just miss my back.
Miss your what?
Doing your thing back in the day. Balance. There was a lot of balance. I listened to hip hop as much as I listened to R&B.
Yes.
And I had that balance. Now
you're right.
It's all just trash. And I'm like, I'm not accepting this. Like, so that's what my thing is. So I know like I said, me and Jen, who was in there earlier, I was just about our conversations in the live chat. Yeah. So
the balance, because it's not out there right now, because again, it's about profitability and what they're going to promote and market. And because we got a legion of talented women who can sing and dance and do things, but that ain't hot right now.
No,
that ain't the money maker right now. So it's no disrespect to Cardi and Megan. This is all that the white boys sitting in these offices are promoting right now because it is profitable. Everything is cyclical, though. It's going to come back around. I don't know when, and then maybe it won't, but the balance has to come from here. You know what I'm saying? Right. You can consume that, but still in here, it's on you to make your own balance. You know what I'm saying? Because everything that you watch or have an opinion about or experience shouldn't just come through this medium, this platform. You got beautiful women walking up and down the street every day. You got beautiful women on your job. You got beautiful women in the grocery store. Treat them. There's your balance, because they're not, performers. They're not actresses. They're not playing this role. There's your balance. It's unfortunate that we're inundated with just that one side. I get your point, and I agree with you, but that's the way it is. So you're going to sit there and be mad about it, or you're going to live in your reality and create an opportunity for yourself or for your children or for your friends to see the balance. And that's what I do in my house, because the balance does exist. It does exist. I'm the balance, I got all this shit, all these good. This is natural. I ain't had nothing sucked or plucked or inserted. No, we walk around looking like this every day. I just chose to talk about things that stimulate your intellect as opposed to things that just stimulate your passions. It don't make me no better or no worse than anybody else. It doesn't make them any better or worse than anybody else, and you got to look for your own balance. And it's out there. We got some good programming on the internet. We have some self-starters who are out there doing great things. It's just the money people are promoting this one side right now.
Right. And like I said, that's why I started doing my thing, because I'm not going to sit here and complain about what's out there, I'm gonna go out here and try to be, even if I'm just rocking with my two people in the live chat right now,
Right.
I'll take that.
Because it'll grow. The thing about this business is to be consistent. And that's why I haven't gotten the traction, because I haven't been consistent with it. I know, God knows I can run my mouth, and I say things that people want to hear and they relate to me. But I'm not consistent with it. But that's because I got other stuff happening in my life that I can't dedicate myself to it. I laugh with my friends all the time, like, yeah, I could have been Oprah. Yeah, I could have been Tamron or whatever. I really believe that I could have, but I took a route where I was more family centric, and I focused myself there. And I'm getting to the point now where I can come out of it, but shit, I'm 55 years old. Is there really a market for some 55-year-old cute girl, cute woman? you know, but we'll see. We'll see. And if it's not, I ain't mad, no harm, no foul, because I've still had a great life. I'm still very proud of everything I've done and I continue to do. And I'm happy. I'm happy. I can genuinely say that. I don't know if a lot of people can say that they're
Yeah,
happy.
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know, but I'm happy because I have always sought my own balance, not what the world told me should make me here. I've already always figured out what would make me okay, because my being okay is so important to me. I wouldn't be here if you're not happy. You ain't gonna make it. I
I,
just really believe that. And I think that's why we're seeing so many people self-destructing. So many people commit suicide now. That bothers me. The level of stroke that we have in our community, that stress, and that's, it's unnecessary. It's just so many things that work against us that, damn it, the one thing I ain't gonna give up is my happiness. I'm not doing it. You can't have it. Can't have it. Can't have it. So if I don't get back to being a personality, all right. If I don't, if the book comes out and it flops, all right. I have fun writing it. It's funny. But
you have a title for it yet?
I do. I have a title for it. I'm always afraid to say stuff because, and it's not obvious. Everybody thinks it should be the goods. That's what it. Because I did a little survey. Everybody's like, "Oh, it should just be the goods. Your show should be called the goods. The goods, the goods, the goods." And I get that. I get it. But I'm so much more than the goods, and I'm so much more than where I was in the 90s. So I'll tell you, since I'm bringing all other kind of news with you, Reg, the title of my book is "I Wish It Was That Easy."
Oh, I like that.
That's the title of my book, because I'm really just exploring my entire life and my potential and what could have been. And, people sometimes in their curiosity can be really insensitive, because they'll say things like, well, you should have been so and so, you should have been this, and you should have been that. Yeah, I should have been, but I didn't. So what, nigga? We're hard on each other.
We are.
Really hard on each other. And so, and thinking about that and how many times I've heard that throughout the years, and, all the things that happened to me where I very easily could have just started doing drugs and really got messed up, because of the lumps I took in this business. And I never did that. I just always redirected and kept going and redirected and kept going. But with all that, people say things and they can be hurtful. And my response to them was like, I wish it was that easy. And then I was like, damn it, that's what should be the title of the book. So that's the title of the book. And it's coming out this summer. It'll be some fun. If we out of COVID and we can sit on a beach or on vacation somewhere, it's going to be a good read. I think it will. And it's been 25 years in the making, because I've been talking about this book since I left BET. People have been on me to write this book, and there were reasons why I didn't, because again, I never wanted to be that one who told everything about BET and just destroyed the illusion.
Mm-hmm.
And even in the book now, I still don't do that because, you got to let people be who they are. And then there were things that I didn't want to get into out of respect for my parents. And my dad's gone now, and my mom's in a situation where she's really not aware anymore. But, I don't know, as long as she's on this earth, I don't want anything to upset her or make her feel bad or make her, I don't know. But, or even my children and my husband, I don't want to, but I'm such an open person. They know everything. And
Okay.
so they're like, put the damn book out. Put it out. Mom, this shit is funny. I mean, my
Right.
kids are like, oh my gosh, mom, but they're great stories. They're great stories. And I'm not the type of person to sit up there and point fingers and, well, this happened to me because you did this. I don't do that. So it's really a funny read about a Black woman in at the height of the 90s being on the most wanted list, among Black women, and what my path was and where I am now as a 55-year-old woman who's still smiling and happy as shit, you know?
Gotcha. So what is going on? What else is going on with you? I know we're getting ready to run out of time in a way, and I could talk all day, but
You too, right?
uh, what's going on with you right now in your career?
Well, I'm a news reporter for the Black Information Network. It's a startup. iHeart owns it. So it's kind of a Viacom BET situation, but we're doing some good things over there. Right now, I think we're on in 144 markets, as well as on the app. So it's the Black Information Network. If you download the iHeart Radio app, you can hear us. BIN is what we are. What else? So I got that going on. I got the book, putting the finishing touches on the book. I would love to relaunch a platform here like you. I don't know. And I do a lot of mentoring. People may not be aware, but I actually taught college for about almost 2 years at Bethune-Cookman University. And
Okay.
I was a professor there. And I loved every day of class because I got to teach young Black people about getting into this business, what to expect, how to navigate certain situations that I had run into. And so many of them are so successful now because they got a whole daggone studio right here in their hand. And that's so cool.
Yeah.
They're killing it. And I really spent a lot of time talking and mentoring and I don't know, just sharing the wealth of my knowledge and my experiences with people. What else? I think I'm very active with Alzheimer's and dementia. My mother
Okay.
suffers, if
All
that's
right.
the
Yeah,
right
that-
word. But my mother has that. And so I spent a lot of time speaking about that and did a lot of research on my own about it, just so that, we're in my age group, a lot of us are dealing with that now. And where it used to be a stigma and an embarrassing and things like that. Sometimes you just need to hear from somebody who's actually been through it to understand what you're dealing with. Because I didn't have anybody, I had no one, when I started this path with my mom. So I had to take a lot of classes, and a lot of classes are given by white people. And we really don't have that kind of support system in our community. And so I do a lot of talking about that and working with a lot of my friends about what they're going through and what to anticipate and expect, because it's not easy. Then, I got a 29-year-old daughter. I got a 21-year-old son. I got a husband who I love more than anything in this world. And so I'm busy, you know, which is another reason why I have not been consistent and dedicated to trying to relaunch my media career. But, everything in God's time is coming, or it's not.
Are you confident that once you get down that path, do you think you'll be able to like I was telling you in the IMs, you have to have some networking. I mean, do you think you'll be able to come back and get those types of guests
Oh,
immediately?
heck yeah.
Okay.
I don't think I have lost no ground with that.
Okay.
It's funny because before I went to the Black Information Network, I was doing a morning show here with Radio One on WOL, the flagship station. If y'all watched Wendy last night's the station that Kathy Hughes started, that was her first station. So I was doing this morning show there. That show was so phenomenal, but it was the hardest thing to produce because they didn't give me a staff. It was me and my best friend who I paid out of my own pocket to help me produce it. Um, and we filled 4 hours every morning of talk. We only had 3 minutes of commercials every break. So we literally filled 4 hours of let me see. Every hour I actually talked for 9 minutes. 60 minus 9. What's that? 51 minutes. I talked for 51 minutes, four times during the show. So that's 51 minutes each hour
Mhm.
I would talk. Anyway, but I mean, the names that we pulled to be on the show for that, I mean, I had Michael Bivins, I had, I can't even think of everybody right now, but I had Fauci, my first interview. I was his
Oh,
first interview. When
okay.
the COVID thing broke, the first interview he did about coronavirus was with me on WOL.
Oh, that's dope.
I talked to not Simone Sanders, but somebody from Biden's team. I talked to Trump wouldn't return my phone calls. Couldn't get nobody out of his camp. But I'm sure looking at my social media, they were like, we ain't messing with that little. She ain't with us. We ain't wasting our time.
She's the
But
op.
yeah, I talked to so many different, I talked to people from Bernie's camp. I talked to, us too, because it was a call-in show. And so I would have average people, not average, I didn't mean it like that, but general people just call in and we would talk like what you have in your chat room. We would talk. And I did that. It's funny because they didn't have I actually came in behind Tom Joyner. When Tom went off the air on WOL, they created the show for me and let me have it. The streaming numbers for WOL, when I took it over, even after Tom, I think when I came in, they were at like, it was something really low, like 19 or 22%. That was the first month. The second month when I was on, it jumped to 28%. The third month I was on, streaming jumped to 57%. That's how much traction I got. I don't know how, because I'm not consistent with social media either. So when I do get a platform this time, I need some young people who understand this whole social media animal, because I know that the type of person I am and the gifts that I have, my Q rating would be, stellar again. I know that. And that's not ego. That's just, I know who I am and I'm comfortable with who I am. So I know that I can do a successful show. I just need the team around me to be able to promote it, because that's all this is now. It's not just turning on a microphone and that. It's about who you can get to come and look at it, who you
Right.
can get to come back every day to watch it. That makes the difference. So maybe I'm really hoping that the book will get my name back out there. I can do all the talk shows and then pay a team, because I don't have a team, to do social media for me and just kill it. I think there's space for me. I think there's space.
That's great. Like I said, I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely going to check out the book. Maybe you'll spare some time when that comes out. You can come back.
Absolutely.
But I just really wanted to talk to you. I had my own questions here, but you covered some stuff on your own, and we just went with it. But I did want people to know just what it takes to do some of this stuff, and then to hear from your perspective and your experiences at BET and whatnot. That's dope.
It's life. It's just life.
Right. And like you said, it comes down to team.
And consistency.
And that's key. But the team, though, when it is just you, like you said, I've been the same thing. I got a backpack over here. I got a laptop in there, cameras, lenses. I'm writing up the fight. I'm writing down interview questions. I'm going here to the post-fight press conference. I just don't think sometimes, and this is why I give people some leeway. There's some people on YouTube that I disagree with strongly. But what I always notice, anybody that is being consistent, if you do something, 4 or 5 weeks in a row, that's a lot. Because most people give up on day 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I said, I disagree strongly with the way that a lot of guys do things, but I can't knock the hustle.
Exactly. I am not a Wendy Williams. I would never approach a job the way she did, and still does, even on her show still, but that's her style. That's the lane she carved out for herself. And she was consistent with that shit. And she is a $150 million woman. And I ain't mad at her. It ain't my style, but I ain't mad at her. She ain't one of my favorite people, but I ain't mad at her. But that's a personal thing. Yeah, she stuck with it. She decided, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to be consistent. In my mind, that's the best example I could give you right now about what you want to do, Reg. Stick to it. Don't let nobody talk you out of it. Be consistent. Just be consistent. That's all it takes.
Got you. Yesterday I actually asked my mother-in-law, because I just got my podcast listed on Apple Podcasts, and I'm like, there's a lot of iPhone users, and I was like, wow, I need y'all to go in there and give me a review, give me a rating.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to walk my mother-in-law through it, and this was like a 45 minute exercise for her, whereas it's a 30-second thing for young people. But I'm just like, it's crucial because it's people like me that need that help from their inner circle.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna go in there and give Madelyne some reviews and some ratings and run you up right away. But my poor mother-in-law, I stopped over there yesterday, and again, this took her an hour, and she had to get another family member involved to do it. And I'm like, geez.
Because in a certain generation, they're intimidated by tech.
Right.
And it's just that simple. They're intimidated by it. They don't understand it. And, they didn't come up. I could say we didn't come up with, all that click, point, click, do this, and we didn't come up like that. So it's unfamiliar. And a lot of people haven't stayed adaptable to it. And
Right.
so, it takes an hour. A 30-second function can take an hour.
Right.
Especially if you're trying to explain it,
I think the next family gathering, I'm just gonna set up a table and tell everybody to leave their phone with me for 5 minutes, and I'm just gonna do my own reviews on about 15 phones. That's how I'm gonna do that.
Sometimes you gotta do it like that.
Exactly.
Sometimes you gotta do it. That's your focus group.
Exactly. Well, I would love to keep you. Like I said, this episode should be out there on Apple Podcasts later today, Google Podcasts, as well as Spotify. I really appreciate you. I'm looking forward to the book. I really wasn't even planning it. I didn't know about the book before we talked, but that's great information.
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to it. And like you said, I just would appreciate it when you get back to the scene. I'll be tuning in. I was one of those people who, when you told me about the app and that we could check it out online, I would tap in and listen to you a couple of times. I know it was a brother on there that owned a nightclub or something in DC, a big nightclub. I checked out that interview and a few others and everything. So
Good.
I'm looking forward to when you do make it back, and it'd be interesting. I mean, do you think it could be? We see all of these. I don't know if it's what network that is that did the TLC and the other movies, but do you think this book could generate that type of buzz?
Doubtful. Only because I haven't been prevalent in hip hop pop culture.
Okay.
Through the years, Whitney's been a mainstay. My name. The song. But they don't really know who's Matt. These young folks, they don't know me. They don't know me. They just know that lyric in the song, Okay. So had I had more of a presence, absolutely. But nah.
Okay.
And I don't know. I would it be fun? Heck, yeah, that would be fun to do something like that. But is that my push? I just want to do what I enjoy. I want to talk. I want to talk, and I want to talk about important things. And I want people to tune in, be entertained, learn something, and maybe just think about it from a different perspective. Yeah.
Echoes everything that I say. Exactly. So again, thank you for your time. Appreciate you being in here. And like I said, hopefully we can link up in the future and do something else.
Yeah. Thank you, Reg.
All right. Appreciate you. I'm gonna let you get out of here.
All right. I'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Let me stop this real quick. It is stopped. Hey, whoever's still in the chat, I don't know who that one person is that's out there, but I appreciate it. I followed her on Instagram last year, and we just started talking. And a younger me, being a big fan of Madelyne, it's just interesting. It's an interesting world now to be able to talk to people that you see on TV or these personalities, figures, these public figures and whatnot. And I just thought she was really down to earth. And like I said, 2021, I wanted to step out and start doing some interviews and getting some different guests on to talk about the stuff that I want to talk about. She brought a lot of stuff that I kind of didn't even plan on. I didn't know a book was in the makings. I didn't know anything about the Red Man situation. I don't even recall Michael Jordan being on BET all that often, but I know for a while when I went into the service, I didn't watch. I didn't have a chance to watch TV as much as I would have, and that was in the mid-90s. So that was dope. Hopefully you got something out of that. Again, the podcast episode will be available on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Maybe later tonight, I'm gonna go in there and throw a quick intro segment on there and whatnot, and get it uploaded and put the description, all that type of stuff on there. But you will be able to check it out. I know YouTube, everybody doesn't have an hour plus to sit in front of a computer or on their phone and whatnot. Another thing to take into consideration, you saw with some of the tech stuff, the signal going in and out. One thing about, and that's why I just wanted to really just record the audio only and put it on my podcast, is what I wanted to do. She mentioned video, and I was like, I ain't gonna turn that down. But it's not as you get people on the interview, it's not as immediate when you want to jump in. It's not the same. Like you can't change pace that easily online because of lag and whatnot. So that's why interviews go a little differently. And I really just wanted to do it over the phone, but it is what it is. I had a good time doing it. I thought she shared a bunch of interesting information. I know a lot of us sit back and complain about BET and what it's become, what it is today. I didn't even get to because we got to running so long, I didn't get to talking about some of the changes over the last couple of years, and with BET going to having a relationship with Tyler Perry, like relying on him for a lot of their content. I haven't really tuned into much of that. The Boomerang series that they started, my wife watched it. I just could never really get into it. And when I really walked away from BET completely was probably the final year of Being Mary Jane. I thought Being Mary Jane was a good ass show. I really did. I thought Gabrielle Union, I thought she was over there acting her ass off, and there wasn't any award shows. There wasn't any real buzz. I almost felt like a 38, 35-year-old black one. I rocked with what was her name? Mary Jane, some P. I can't think of her last name on there, but I dug the show. Omari Hardwick was on there. The first 2 seasons or 1.5 seasons. Michael Ealy was on there towards the end, but it might have been my favorite show at that time. I never got into the whole the joint with Kerry Washington scandal. I couldn't get into that at all. But like I said, I thought Being Mary Jane was pretty dope. I understand it was all about a single black woman and whatnot, blah blah blah. But I thought it was well done. I really do. And after that went off and it never caught on, I was a little disappointed. But anyway, let me get on out of here. Spend the rest of the day with my wife and whatnot. Like I said, I really I'm really appreciative of Madelyne's, giving me an hour and a half. I thought I was going to be pressed for like an hour and whatnot. Didn't get into some of the stuff that I wanted to talk about with my list of questions here, but the things that she hit on were she's still on there. I don't know if she can hear me or not. Okay. Anyway, like I said, made my day. And I hope to be able to get some other people on that you may be familiar with. That comes with getting numbers, with people, with downloads, with subscribers, with comments, with chats, live chats and whatnot. That's a part of being able to go out to different individuals and get some time. And, not everybody is that down to earth. or just willing to it was another guest. I mentioned this on the podcast last week. I didn't really know if I was going to get to speak to Madelyne. But I was trying to talk to this brother. It's a really popular podcast. I mean, it's a podcast, but it's a YouTube channel on here called Earn Your Leisure. Earn Your Leisure. And they do financial advice. They talk about stocks every Monday. And it's three brothers. And I approached one of them via email and really wanted to get this guy on because I just started buying some stocks. I had to get off the sideline and actually hit buy. And I just felt like, I'm going to learn something, or I'm going to lose some money or whatever. But I don't know if and this is what Madelyne was just talking about. A lot of people made a lot of big money, a lot of real money since this COVID situation went down. And Black people not knowing, not listening to the right stuff, we missed out on that shit. And this wasn't this. You didn't have to be no genius. But if you don't, quick story. This brother, I was telling this brother about it the other day, and he said, I sent him some stuff. I texted him some stuff about stocks. And he said, man, that was Spanish. What you sent me. And it was some simple shit because I don't even know nothing. I don't know anything complex about stocks. But he said that shit was like Spanish. And I said, well, you know how people learn how to speak Spanish, right? You talk Spanish all damn day, and you run into a situation where you need to eat. You need to get something to drink. You need somewhere to sleep and be warm. You would learn how to speak key Spanish stuff to get your, what do they call that shit? Your main needs or your basic necessities. You would learn those basic things. And so I'm like, that's all I'm trying to do now. I want to put my money into some stuff because I'm going to figure out how not to lose that money. And so I will gradually learn how to speak Spanish. I can't say fluently, but I'll be, functionally. I'll be able to do it functionally. And so, but anyway, there were a couple of stocks that were like $20. You saw this GameStop. If you've been watching the news, you saw GameStop this weekend become a major story. It was on all the Sunday morning stuff. And it was basically all these people in Wall Street that take money out of, that take money and win all year round and improve their wealth and grow their wealth. Some shit started on Reddit, and a bunch of everyday people bought a $5 stock, which was what GameStop was at some point. And then GameStop ballooned all the way up to like $340 or $370 per share. Now, again, this isn't rocket science. If you subtract $350, if you subtract $5 from $350, that's $345. Now, if you had bought you 100 shares at that $5, 100 shares times $345, you multiply that, that's the profit that you would have made from having that stock. And what I'm saying is, if you hang in the right circles and you see some of these stocks being discussed, some of these names coming up, you can make an informed decision to jump in and buy some of that shit. How much is, me and my wife couldn't go to the movies this weekend. Going to the movies is what, like a $40, $45 night. Then you throw in some food, you get up to $50, $60 to go to the movies. We're not doing that right now. So what if I took $60 and bought me 12 shares of GameStop when it was $5? And then, like I said, it goes on that run and you can take that profit. So anyway, I didn't went all over the place, but I wanted to bring this brother on and get that interview because I wanted to have that discussion about stocks. And I emailed him and I told him I had this dope angle because obviously he doesn't need me. These three brothers are on, they're on Instagram. I think the one that I emailed, I think he might've just had a meeting with Jay-Z. Why did Jay-Z want to talk to him? Because he's on here talking about money and he looks professional in his presentation, and they're hot right now. But I wanted him to come on and talk to me. I thought I could really sell him on, people might be intimidated trying to learn about what you're talking about on your platform. But if you come on here and talk to me in like Stocks for Dummies, maybe it's a chance for somebody who wants to jump in the pool too. Maybe it's a chance for those individuals to quit dipping their big toe in the water and go on and jump in based on the discussion that we have over here. So I was trying to get that done. It didn't happen. I emailed him like 3 or 4 times. And I'm going to keep emailing him. I think the next thing I'm going to do in the subject line, I'm getting ready to put in parentheses, email number 6, email number 7, email number 8. We're going to get all the way up to 25 until he gives me 30 minutes of his time, because I want to have that conversation. So that's how I'm going to go about trying to get him on here. Or maybe I start emailing one of the other guys and see if they respond. But again, one of the things that I was talking about was I'm tired of watching some of these channels and it's just white people this, white people that, we know that there's challenges out there, but so I graduated in 93. It was the same stuff being said. It was the same problems, the same challenges, so on and so forth. But it's so much information out here now, and it's so much capability. I don't know if that's the right way to use that word, but you can go out here and do so much now just on your own. So to sit and focus on things not happening where they should be happening or where they happened previously, we are at a position to where you can go in a different direction and still do something. And so to sit around and just keep talking about the problem and rehashing it and restating the problem in different terms and whatnot, we don't have time for that. Like Madelyne was just saying, that shit affects people's happiness. Sitting up constantly talking about problems, sitting up talking about the mountain the entire time. Like you only here for a short time. I was shoveling my mom's driveway this morning, and she came out and said that this friend of hers, who I really couldn't stand, I really didn't like this lady. But my mom came out and said that the lady got put on a ventilator last night. I had to act like I liked the lady, that I really cared about her. And she might not come home from the hospital. She said she thought it was COVID. But we're in a time right now. I mean, if you're listening to some of these stories, these variants, these new strains and shit, like if we're not really learning that nothing is promised tomorrow right now, like if that's not resonating in a different way right now, since March of 2020, like if that shit doesn't hit differently, talk about stuff hitting differently, like if tomorrow's not promised, isn't resonating right now, then I don't know what we need to see to be about our business individually. None of this stuff that I'm rambling on is going to be on the podcast. Like I said, I already hit stop on it. I just was running my mouth before I got on out of here. That little graphic has been on the screen where you can find It's Always Personal. That's where, I get away from sports. I get away from boxing and try to talk about real stuff to the best of my ability. But let me shut this down and get on off of here. Still learning how to use some of this stuff. Anyway, thanks for checking in. Hopefully, anybody that sees this after the fact, like I said, hopefully it was entertaining or informative. I was a little gun shy when she started talking about the challenges at her job. Like, here it is. We just watch BET. We tune in and see what we see. Like she said, she's on there looking, lovely and all of that type of stuff. And, the nice fitting clothing and hair and all of that type of stuff and interviewing all of the people. And here she is trying to use her education and her skills and her experience to go do these other things. And somebody is telling her no. And then the whole situation with Ed Bradley. Not Ed Bradley. That's the brother on 60 Minutes. Ed Gordon. I'm sorry. That's crazy. I hope the lesson in that though was that, and she mentioned it a couple of times with her education, like there was adversity, there was conflict, there were walls in front of her, there were barriers, to her doing what she was trying to do, but she was educated and had enough skill to work around that eventually and to go on and live her life. I was in a situation at one time where I sat in a messed up spot for like 6+ years, and it had consumed me in some ways. I was working on my plan to get around it for 4 of those years. But based on like where I am, I didn't have an immediate, I didn't have a 6-month solution or a 9-month solution. And it ended up dragging out to something that was about 5.5, 6 years. I could have been doing a lot more interesting stuff during that period of time instead of focusing on the mountain that I was fixated with. But anyway, let me get on off of here, man. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you hit that like button for me. Consider becoming a subscriber to the channel. Another key thing is, like I was saying earlier, not everybody, and that's the thing, like YouTube isn't all that, you don't need to be all that tech savvy, but hit that bell icon. If you can find that bell icon on the screen somewhere by the name of the channel, if you can hit that, you be notified whenever I do go live or whenever I post a new video. If you care to tune in to a live stream, or if you want to watch the video that I just posted, that's how you can know what's going on. Right now, I don't have a schedule. I can't promise you that I'm gonna be on every Saturday or every Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon. I just don't have it like that. Like I said, I gotta email people a million times. I gotta call people. Even when I go and I scheduled last week, I scheduled a live stream for this boxer I was supposed to talk to. And it's great to try to give people a heads up, in 2 hours, I'm going to be on with so-and-so. And then at 1.5 hours in, with 30 minutes left, I got an email and said that the fighter wouldn't be coming on. Their schedule got moved around and blah, blah, blah. And I had to go delete that scheduled live stream that I had. Got to be flexible. But if you hit that bell icon, like I said, you'll know whenever I am going on. And you can simply check in and see if it's a subject or a person that you care to know about or not, and you move on. It's really that simple. One person, I'm really getting ready to get off here, but one person told me they didn't want to subscribe to the channel because they thought it was going to cost them something. I'm like, damn. People not being up with the times. And I'm talking about this because there's a lot of people out here trying to do X, Y, Z. And you would hope that the first group of people you could turn to help you get started, to help the ball get rolling, some of these analytics and these different metrics that come into play. I need some subscribers. I need, average viewing time. I need somebody to say something in the live chat. I need a comment to be made on the video. Like when you're trying to get the ball rolling to show some of those different things, you would hope your circle could help you out. But people don't know how to do stuff. It takes 30 seconds or 15 seconds. But that's it, man. Let me get on off of here. Get my outro music. That intro music that I used, that was some fire for I never saw that before or saw that artist before, but that intro music was all right. Need my team to do some of this. Wouldn't it be nice to have a team? Yeah, this shit was kind of smooth. But let me get on out of here, man. Thanks for rocking with me. Let me get out of here. Have a phenomenal day. Enjoy. Make the most of this week. Gone.